Hey everyone, nubkeks here, and in today's video we're going to be asking and answering one very simple question. Is the Demon Hunter class any good in Shadowlands, right? The expansion is only just over a month away, pre-patch is probably landing in the next couple of weeks. It's time to dive into this and actually answer this question for good. And my goal with this class review series is to do some shorter videos giving you more opinions. If you want to see all of the full details on how the specs are actually playing, I did do spec deep dive series where I broke down every single aspect of them, and you can find the playlist on my channel. Alright then, well I think the place to start is with the biggest expansion feature of Shadowlands, which is of course the Covenant system. And I think the Covenants for Demon Hunter are actually fairly dodgy, they're not great. My favorite Covenant ability for the Demon Hunter right now would be the Venthyr with Sinful Brand. It's a short 1 minute cooldown and it does big single target damage in a damage over time effect over 8 seconds to the target, lowering their casting and attack speeds as well. This just feels fantastic. It does really good damage. It also applies in AoE whenever you use Metamorphosis, so you can make it work in AoE situations too. That being said, I do have to say the Kyrian Covenant is starting to stand out a bit more to me the more I play the Demon Hunter. Their Elysian Decree is essentially another sigil, just like the sigils that the Vengeance Demon Hunter has. It does a good chunk of damage, and it also shatters out some soul fragments, and those soul fragments are pretty cool because not only will they heal the Demon Hunter specs, which is awesome, gives you some survivability too, but they do fuel your damage through Demonic Appetite talent at level 15 for Havoc, and of course through Empowering Spirit Bomb at level 30, I think, for the Vengeance Demon Hunter. The downside of this Elysian Decree, of course, is that in single target, it's really not that good at all. It falls off quite a lot compared to Sinful Brand, though it will pull ahead when you're fighting in AoE, and that's certainly where the appeal starts to come in for me, because I'm kind of thinking, on the whole, you're going to see in this video, the place where I really enjoy playing these Demon Hunter specs the most is really in the dungeon scenarios. It's in those AoE scenarios. And I'm kind of wondering if Kyrian might not pull ahead and pull to the front in that situation, which is where I might play the spec the most, and therefore that might be the one I end up picking. Bad news is that Necrolord and Nightfae are both looking pretty dodgy right now. The Necrolord Fodder to the Flame, spawning a pool on the ground that you need to stand in for a buff, that just doesn't work very well with Demon Hunter, which is a very mobile class. Same thing with the Nightfae ability, the Hunt. It's a big distance closing ability on a 3-minute cooldown that does some good single target damage, but you don't really need that gap closer as a Demon Hunter, and you'd much rather, I think, have the single target damage from Sinful Brand, which is just much more powerful. Looking at the Havoc Demon Hunter then, when I initially looked at this on the beta, I had only really bad things to say, because the only things that Havoc Demon Hunter was getting on the beta at that time was essentially nerfs. Nerfs to all of their defensives across the board. Baseline Leech has been attacked, Blur is much weaker, Netherwalk and the talent tree got nerfed, Blade Dance and Death Sweep are no longer going to let you dodge. Just nerfs to all their survivability. But I actually I stand by what I said back then, and I still stand by it now, which is saying that I think that actually makes sense that they got nerfed at this. Havoc Demon Hunter in BFA was just too good at too many things. And I think if you look at the class thematically, you know, there's these you know, crazy blind elves with warglaives that are running around half naked with tattoos on them. You know what I mean? Like, they should be kind of a glass cannon. They should be very mobile, but they should also be kind of squishy. And they were just way too survivable in BFA. It was like a glass cannon, but not a glass. It was just a big, massive steel cannon that also was zipping around and complained about how much it had sacrificed and all of that. I think this makes sense. Now the question is, of course, nerfs aside, is the Havoc Demon Hunter though, is it any fun? How's it play? Where is its strengths? And certainly it's good to say that there have been some buffs that have come in over the beta as well for Havoc, which I think are pushing it into more of a niche, and I think into a fairly good place actually for the Shadowlands. And it is in AoE then that I think Havoc Demon Hunter is really going to thrive actually. You know, the level 30 row being now dedicated to AoE and actually been quite fun. You know, Unbound Chaos, Glaive Tempest, they're nice little new tools to play around with. And then of course, you know, getting Fell Barrage as well. I was playing this in the dungeons and I actually really enjoyed it. I have to say, as an AoE damage dealer, it feels very satisfying. It feels really good. Essentially, you've got a lot of these burst AoE cooldowns, but you've got so many, and they're on such short cooldowns, that it's kind of that classic Demon Hunter feeling, which is that, whereas other classes are often choosing between sustained damage or burst damage, when it comes to AoE, it's kind of like you're a burst damage class, but you've got so much burst and it's up so frequently that it's like sustained burst damage. It feels really, really good. So I think that is where the Havoc Demon Hunter really thrives. You're zipping around the place. You've got loads of fun AoE cooldowns, which are very powerful to play with. In Mythic Plus dungeons, I think in world content, in Torghast, when you are fighting these packs of multiple mobs, I think you're going to feel really good there. It's going to be very enjoyable, and you're going to have a great time. Now, where I think the Havoc Demon Hunter is going to have some struggles, I am a bit worried that they could be quite boring in raids, where it is more of a single target situation. In fact, 4 of the bosses in Castle Nathria in the first raid are looking to be single target bosses. And I really do think that Havoc Demon Hunter, a lot of what makes it interesting starts to fall away when it goes into those single target fights. Now, they have tried, I think, to add in some interesting stuff for single target there in the talent tree. Like the level 40 row, they've reworked Cycle of Hatred, they've reworked Essence Break. You've Essence Break a new talent, which is kind of cool. But of course, they compete with First Blood, and First Blood is what makes Blade Dance a core part of your rotation in single target. So if you give up First Blood, then you're ditching Blade Dance in single target, and your spec becomes more boring. I actually made and had a hilarious time doing this total meme Demon Hunter build, where you go with Demon Blades, so it removes your generator of Demon's Bite, makes it passive. You take Cycle of Hatred, where Chaos Strike will reduce the cooldown of I-Beam, and that makes Blade Dance not worth pressing in single target. Yeah, it's actually quite hilarious. You take Blind Fury at level 15, so your I-Beam generates Fury, and very simply, you just press Immolation Aura whenever it's up. You're going to do Unbound Chaos, so you're going to have to do a Fell Rush after Immolation Aura for a bit of damage. That's okay. Then you're going to I-Beam, and then you're just going to spam Chaos Strike, and that literally is it. You can also use Metamorphosis to reset your I-Beam, and then spam more Chaos Strikes and press your Covenant ability. But yeah, it becomes essentially like a 3-button spec, you know, just whatever. Immolation Aura, and then a Fell Rush together every 20 seconds. Or sorry, every 30 seconds. Excuse me, every 30 seconds. Do your I-Beam every 30 seconds. They'll reduce it by 3 seconds every time you Chaos Strike. And then other than that, spam Chaos Strike. And that's your single target rotation. I actually tested this out in comparison to what is the best Havoc Demon Hunter build on live server right now, like what I've been running as a Demon Hunter. I main Demon Hunter for 8.3 for Nyalotha, and I compared it to the best build there, and it actually outdamaged it substantially with this sort of meme build. So I'm worried. I am worried about single target for Havoc Demon Hunter, whether or not it will be fun, because I think the class, it doesn't fit in all that well there. So that is certainly something to be aware of. My legendary of choice for the Havoc Demon Hunter is Fell Bombardment. This one is really good. Immolation Aura has a chance to give you a stack of Fell Bombardment whenever it does damage. This stacks up to 5 times, and it empowers the damage of your next throw glaive by 20%, and it also makes it throw an additional glaive at a nearby target, which again will bounce around and do that extra damage too. With 5 stacks of this, it does a whole chunk of damage, does a ton of damage. Essentially, in a dungeon environment, the way it works, right, is you're going to get 2 throw glaives into each Immolation Aura window, right? So every time you do Immolation Aura, you're probably going to get enough stacks on average to throw glaive once, and then build up some more stacks and throw glaive again. This is super fun. This is so much fun. Those glaives do a lot of damage. They are badass. And again, it's just, it builds into what I'm saying is the strength of Havoc Demon Hunter, which is those AoE situations. When you're in dungeons and AoE, you've got these short cooldowns to play around. This gives you, again, sort of, essentially this cooldown you want to use twice with every Immolation Aura in Throw Glaive. It's just great. It just spices up that rotation. It feels impactful. It does have a downside that at the moment it's kind of bugged. It pulls everything. So it hits stuff you're not in combat with. So you'll just, you know, you'll be fighting a mob pack. You'll build up your 5 stacks, throw this out, and you'll see these glaives just fling on over to a pack that you're not in combat with at all. That's on the other side of the room. And you just kind of freak out and you wipe your Mythic Plus run, which is obviously a downside. But hopefully they'll fix that and this could be really good. Unfortunately, I will say that the rest of the legendaries and the conduits as well for Havoc Demon Hunter are particularly dull. Yeah, they're not great. They're not great at all. They're very boring. I will say on the whole that there are a couple of really nice things for sure that we've seen here that have been added for Havoc Demon Hunter in Shadowlands, but I also feel like the class definitely could use a big deep dive by the developers to just come up with more stuff to put into the class. It does feel rather empty. It just seems like when they're making these 8 legendaries that would work for Havoc Demon Hunter, that they just don't have all that many ideas for what might actually be fun. So that is something to watch out for. For the Vengeance Demon Hunter, it's playing very, very similarly to how it did in BFA, although, again, that's not a bad thing, because I do think that Vengeance in BFA was certainly a very fun tank. Jumping around the place, dropping out your sigils, with lots of different versions of crowd control on those sigils, is a really, really fun thing. One of the nice, big improvements, of course, you're going to notice for Vengeance Demon Hunter is Fell Devastation. It's basically I-Beam for Vengeance, right? It's a 1 minute cooldown now. It has been nerfed, but for 50 Fury, you're going to channel for 2 seconds in front of you and do a big chunk of fire damage, and you're going to heal yourself based off of the damage that you do. Demonic has also arrived as a talent for Vengeance as well. Again, this is the nerfed form. It's only 6 seconds of demon form after every Fell Devastation, so you can get about 10% uptime of meta just from your Fell Devastation and the Demonic talent, which does feel pretty good. It's a really nice, you know, short cooldown, 1 minute cooldown to weave into your dungeon runs or your tanking in raid. That's really going to boost up your survivability, and obviously it looks badass, and it's super fun. So that is a really good addition. One thing I do find a bit weird playing with Demon Hunter, I do feel like Vengeance, it plays very well. It flows very well in practice, you know, and if you're just playing like a regular player, in practice it plays really well. But when it comes to the theory of the class, there's definitely some weird stuff going on there. Just because not only are you generating Fury, but you're also generating these soul fragments, and then you're consuming those soul fragments with Soul Cleave or with Spirit Bomb if you go into the talent tree. And certainly when you take Spirit Bomb, and you probably will, because Spirit Bomb really fuels a lot of this massive AoE damage that Vengeance can do, that's where stuff gets a bit weird. Because these soul fragments are, number one, it's kind of hard to see in the default UI. It's kind of hidden away. It's really easy to pick them up by accident just by moving around, like you suck them up by default. But they're also very important. They're a substantial part of where your healing comes from. Blizzard is trying to fix this in Shadowlands, like they've been patching and tweaking the numbers for Vengeance Demon Hunter and trying to reduce the emphasis and reduce the power of those soul fragments. But I do think that it ends up being a bit weird. I feel like there could be a deeper look taken at Vengeance to try to just smooth that out at the theoretical level, instead of just kind of nerfing it down so that the sort of dissonance between what is theoretically the best way to play the class and then just sort of, you know, just pressing your buttons in practice, to sort of bridge that gap a little bit more. I definitely think that the spec could use some tweaks. But that being said, in dungeons, it's very, very fun, right? It's very fun in dungeons, playing around with your sigils. You've got great AoE damage. You're going to be building up those soul fragments and firing off these spirit bombs. Spirit bomb's going to do lots and lots of damage. And then once you fired off your spirit bomb, you can throw out some soul cleaves to dump the fury, the excess fury that you've generated, and get a bit of extra healing and extra damage in there too, which is still really nice. In terms of a standout legendary for Vengeance, I'm really struggling here. Yeah, it's hard to actually pick one. I was hoping that Fell Bombardment, which worked for Havoc, would work for Vengeance, because, well, it works with Throw Glaive and with Immolation Aura, and we do have both of those abilities. However, for whatever reason, this does not currently function with Vengeance. I'm not sure if that's a bug or if it's intended. If it's not intended, if it is a bug, then great. Fell Bombardment will definitely also be the go-to. If that is supposed to be a Havoc-only legendary that's not to work with Vengeance, though, I'm not really sure where to go. I guess Collective Anguish is maybe my favorite choice, where when you do a Fell Devastation, an allied Havoc Demon Hunter will pop in and do an I-Beam as well. It's kind of fun. It's just a bit more damage. It helps you get a bit more threat. But that's kind of all it does. I'm definitely struggling to find much in the legendaries that's of all that much interest. Again, you even have 2 legendaries which are based off of using Soul Cleave and consuming soul fragments with Soul Cleave, which is just kind of awkward, seeing as with Spirit Bomb, you really want to be prioritizing Spirit Bomb much more over Soul Cleave and trying to press Soul Cleave as little as possible compared to the Spirit Bomb. So there are some conflicts there, which is something of an issue. So with all of that being said, where does that leave Demon Hunters? Is this a good class? Is this a class worth playing in Shadowlands? Well, needless to say, I certainly don't think this is going to be the best class. It's not the most polished class. Certainly in terms of all of like the new things coming in Shadowlands, the Covenants and the Legendaries, etc. You've got, I think, a fairly bad selection there. However, that being said, the core of these classes are 2 very, very fun specs. They are 2 fun specs. For Havoc Demon Hunter, it's a spec which I think, particularly in Shadowlands, with the new talent tweaks that they've put in for them, It's a spec which is going to thrive in AoE environments. It's going to thrive in solo play, in dungeons, in world content, where you're going to be able to zip around. You've got loads of different AoE cooldowns to play around with. They're very powerful, they're very fun, and it's just a quick, snappy class. So if you like that sort of content, I think you're going to have a great time. I'm a bit worried about how much fun they're going to be to play in the raids or in PvP. I don't think they're going to be top tier classes in terms of fun, in my opinion, in that. But I still think that Havoc has a great identity as a spec, and it will be very enjoyable to play, especially as an alt spec, because it's so good at like that world content and grinding and stuff. It makes playing them as an alt in particular very good. It removes some of the tedium from what is, refarming stuff. For Vengeance, again, I think Vengeance is looking pretty solid here in Shadowlands so far. They do an awful lot of damage in dungeons, which is very powerful, and that could make them an actually very potent tank for Mythic Plus at the start of the expansion. And again, I think they're also very, very fun in that dungeon situation where you can play around with your sigils and really bring all of that crowd control, your mobility. You can kite around the place. There's just a lot of stuff you can do as a Vengeance Demon Hunter in dungeons that makes them super fun. Much like Havoc, though, I think when you move into the raiding scenario, I think a lot of that interest starts to go away, especially against a single target raid boss, again, of which there are 4 in Shadowlands and Castle Nathria. There's 4 single target bosses, pretty much single target bosses. Those sigils suddenly aren't that important. Your mobility doesn't matter all that much. I feel like a lot of what makes this spec interesting doesn't shine as much in that raid scenario. So yeah, that's sort of something to consider. There you are, that's the Demon Hunter class. A great melee DPS and a great tank in dungeon scenarios, but a little less interesting when it comes to raid, and certainly suffering from some boring borrowed powers that are coming in the expansion. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.